Hi, my name's Dan, and in this video I'm going to show you some techniques that you can use for blocking out a level using geometry objects. So I've just got a third-person template up here, and the only thing that's different is that I've migrated uh, um, a texture that I've got from a different project. What I've done in this texture is I've created a block out of the level. It's really rough and ready. Just drew it on paper, took a photo, and I've turned it into a texture that's been turned into a material in here now. I'm not going to go through the details of how to edit materials, but I've scaled the texture coordinates by a factor of 1.35. And the reason I've done that is because of the nature of the floor here in the third person template. That makes it work exactly on the floor. So what I'm going to do first of all is get rid of everything apart from our character on the floor. So that's all the walls. So notice the shadows are still there. Before I'm just going to do a quick lighting build of that to get rid of those spurious shadows. So this will just take a few seconds. There we go, nice and clean. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the floor. Yeah, and I'm going to apply this texture that's got the plan on it onto the floor. So that gives me the block out of what I'm going to use. Now this is quite a small area that I'm blocking out here. And if you have, if you use larger, of course you can scale up as you need to. I'm going to leave it roughly, maybe slightly larger. There we go. And I'm just going to get hold of my guy here and move him into the open space. So the first thing that you see is I've actually now got on my floor the layout of what I'm going to want to create. And what I'm not going to do is spend all my time blocking this out. I'm just going to show you some of the principles that he used. So in the geometry tab over here, possibly the most useful thing is the box. So I'm going to be creating some objects in there. Now, there are two ways of scaling this up to the size that I want. I can either use the brush settings here, which give me the X, Y, and Z size. And this is my preferred method. Or I can use the scale here. So just break out that. And the X. Z, all we do is lift that up. Just try and drop that object down, and the key isn't working. Right, there we go. So that's part of that building done. I'm just gonna go to in the starter content and find a material. I'm just gonna stick a cobblestone material on that wall there. So cobblestone's not so great. Let's have enough stone. There we go. So we'll go out from the outside. Got a reasonable scaling on that stone there. Now, if we'd gone through the other method, let's put another box in. So remember I mentioned there are two ways of doing this, and one is to use the scaling. So instead we're going to use the scale. What happens when you start using the scaling instead is that actually the texture mapping stays the same on the objects, and so if you're scaling up, your texture becomes bigger. which is probably not what you're going to want. So I advise you generally to use the, instead of doing that, set that back to 1, there we go, is to use the brush size instead. Now hopefully you've had some experience with dealing with these geometry objects, and you know they can use additive and subtractive to make more stuff. I'm just gonna stick a couple more in here. Of course, I could change the textures on this. This is the steps for my town hall here. There's the idea of what this bit is. Of course, the plan that I've got doesn't show me third-dimensional stuff. X and Y. So that's a bit too big, maybe. Yeah, quite a lot too big. Bring that out. And here I've got, on my plan, I've got some steps. So I'm going to put some steps in as well. So there are various things that you can do with the steps. I don't want as many steps as that, so I'm going to have 5 steps. I'm going to just turn those around so they're oriented in the right way. Steps are slightly easier to deal with in some ways because they don't, when you size them, they don't size out from the middle. They size out from this bottom corner here. So it makes it easier to gauge. Just kind of do that, and then the step length. And I can just see where that yellow line disappears. That's where it's aligned up. So I've got some nice steps leading on there. And this is a central feature that I can put in. I'm not going to spend the time to do that. I am just going to go to the start content props because I want park benches in here. So actually, I'm just going to use the couch from here as a park bench. Just move that into position. So this is meant to have a kind of raised bed with a tree in it. Obviously, this is just a very quick way of getting the first plan out of your level, of your environment. It strongly encourages you to replace your geometry with static meshes later on for performance sake, but it's certainly it's a good way of getting a starting point. Okay, that's me done.